Hello Year 9, welcome to our next distance learning lesson on topic B4. Today we're going to look at respiration, okay, and we're going to think about the fact that we did the respiration topic as part of human body in Year 8, and so we're going to try and dredge up some of that memory. What do we know about respiration at the moment? So first of all, where does respiration occur? What do you think the word aerobic means? What do living things need to use their energy for? Okay, so have a think about some of those questions. Just a thinking activity, you don't need to write anything for this part. We're just going to think about those three questions, maybe have a pause, have a chat, just to kind of process that in your mind. Okay, where does respiration occur? It is in the mitochondria, which are inside the cells, that found in the cytoplasm inside the cells. What do you think the word aerobic means? It means with oxygen, to respire using oxygen. What do living things need to use energy for? All of our metabolic reactions, the chemical reactions that happen in our bodies, making proteins, maintaining body temperature, digesting our food, movement, lots and lots of things that we use energy for. Thinking. Okay, here's our title for today. So writing our title and our date. What are aerobic and anaerobic respiration? We're writing that title down now, please. Okay, if you need any extra time, then pause now. So if we were in class, we would use our lung capacity bags and we would get people to blow into those to see what their lung capacity is like. Your lung capacity is actually more than you would blow into one of these bags, because when we exhale, we don't remove all of the air from our lungs, just a large portion of it. So that's something that we can have a go at doing when we get back to school. Okay, we're really just looking at some definitions today and a few easy exam questions, so that's what we've got here. So, comparing inhaled and exhaled air. Jasmine was trying to find out how much air she breathed out in one breath. She poured water into a bell jar and placed it upside down in a trough of water. The bell jar had a scale marked in centimetres cubed. Before Jasmine breathed that into the bell jar is where the water was here. And after she breathed into the bell jar is just here. So a really quick question, how much had she breathed out? Now the bell jar on the left before she breathed into it reads at 200 centimetres cubed, and when she finished breathing out it was at 700 centimetres cubed. So 700 minus 200 gives us 500 centimetres cubed that she breathed out. Okay, it was a bit of a trick question there because it didn't start with the water level at the top, it started on 200. Okay, if you need extra time to write that down, then pause now. Okay, comparing inhaled and exhaled air. Air contains carbon dioxide, nitrogen, noble gases, oxygen and water vapour. Discuss the differences between the composition of the air Jasmine breathed in and the air she breathed out. And you can use those words there. So it's 5 marks. And if you notice, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different components to the air there. So you might say something like the air Jasmine breathed out had more, and then you could incorporate one of those gases than the air she breathed in. Something along those lines. They're the sorts of statements we're looking for. Okay, so give yourself some time to do that and pause the video now. Okay, let's look at going through that then. So the air that Jasmine breathed out contained more carbon dioxide and more water vapour than she breathed in. And we know this because we breathe on a window and we can see that condensation, that water, and we know that carbon dioxide is a product of respiration. The air that Jasmine breathed out contained less oxygen, okay, because the oxygen was used up by respiration, and the air that Jasmine breathed out contained the same amount of nitrogen and noble gases as the air she breathed in, because those aren't used by the body at all. We breathe them in and we breathe them out. If you need any extra time to write that up, then pause now. Okay, we've got two definitions now. One definition for aerobic respiration and one definition for anaerobic respiration. Okay, aerobic respiration is what's happening right now. Okay, in our bodies, our cells are going through aerobic respiration. It's taking the glucose that we ate, it's taking the oxygen that we breathed in, and they react together in our cells, in the mitochondria. We'll come back to that one in a minute. Releasing energy from the glucose. So the glucose here is a store of energy, and aerobic respiration releases the energy from that glucose using oxygen. And when it's in aerobic respiration, that's really, really efficient. It releases a lot of energy. Okay, so that's why I've underlined a lot there. And this is what our cells are doing right now. When we're not exercising, when we're not lifting anything heavy, our cells are in aerobic respiration. And then when we do exercise, and what I want you to try and do just for, half a minute or so, is just not this, not just, but really push your hand out, spring your hand out, pull it in, just keep going. Now you should be starting to feel a bit of a pain in that hand, okay? You're starting to, basically your muscles are using more energy in this action. I feel it in my arm as well. And because they're using more energy, heart rate's going up a little bit. It's taking more glucose, more oxygen to the cells. And it's trying to, I'm going to stop that now. It's trying to get a faster rate of aerobic respiration. We want to stay in aerobic respiration for as long as possible because it's efficient. It releases lots of energy. And when we were doing that exercise, we were using lots of energy. We were trying to get more of the glucose and the oxygen to the cells by increasing heart rate. Maybe if we were doing, obviously a bit more exercise than that, our breathing rate goes up in terms of speed and also depth of breath. And then when we feel that pain, we know that those cells have gone into anaerobic respiration. Now, it wasn't the cells in my legs that went into anaerobic respiration or anywhere else. It was just in my hand or my arm where I was using that extra energy. Okay, so if you're carrying heavy bags, you feel it in your arms. If you're running, you feel it in your legs. Okay, so it's just some of the cells have gone into it. And it only releases a small amount of energy, so it's not as efficient. That's why when we, do a 100-meter sprint, we can't keep going forever and ever because we run out of energy. And it's in the absence of oxygen. So when we go into this anaerobic state, and we know that we've done that because we've got the pain of the lactic acid, we'll talk about that in a bit. That means that we've run out of oxygen. We've still got some glucose, so we're still breaking down that glucose in that mitochondria, but only releasing some energy from it. Okay, so our two types of respiration are aerobic and anaerobic. Efficient, not efficient, all the time when our muscles are being worked really hard. Okay, so if you haven't done the notes yet, then pause now and get those notes done. Okay, so we're going back to aerobic respiration. Here's the word equation. You'll notice it is the reverse of photosynthesis. So in photosynthesis, the plant took in the water at the roots, it took in the carbon dioxide at the leaves, and it produced the glucose, the food for itself, and it released oxygen as a byproduct. We've reversed that, and it's respiration. Okay, and we said that plants respire as well because they're living things. So they actually use some of the glucose that they made and convert it, break it down to get the energy from it. There's our word equation, and here is our symbol equation. Okay, big molecule for glucose, C6H12O6, and we put 6 in front of all the small molecules, and that balances it for us. Now, it's really important we don't mash up our word and symbol equations. If we've started with a word equation, keep it like that. People are really tempted when they get to this one, carbon dioxide, not to write carbon dioxide, just to write CO2. If you're doing a word equation, do a word equation. If you're doing a symbol equation, do a symbol equation. Don't mash up the two. At the bottom here, we're showing where we get and where we release some of these reactants and products. So the reactant here, the glucose, comes through. This is the small intestine, the villi of the small intestine. We learnt about those in B1, and we can see that large surface area, and it by the process of diffusion and then active transport, that glucose gets into the blood in those capillaries there. The oxygen, this is the alveoli in the lungs, and we've got that diffusion of the oxygen into the blood. Carbon dioxide works in the same way, but the diffusion is back the other way from the blood into the alveoli. Similarly for Similarly for the water, we also sweat out some of the water and also lost in urine. Okay. If you need any extra time on that page, then please pause now. Okay, we're looking at anaerobic respiration. Only need the word equation for this one. So you can see oxygen has disappeared because there's not enough oxygen left for it to react with the glucose. So the glucose simply breaks down into two, forming this lactic acid. And we know the lactic acid is there because it causes that pain in our muscles, okay? So that is the word equation for anaerobic respiration. And if you need any extra time, pause now. Okay, here's the mitochondria then. So they're floating around in the cytoplasm, and it's where the respiration occurs. So oxygen and glucose diffuse in for respiration, carbon dioxide and water diffuse out from respiration, and that energy is used for body functions. Okay, this is just a recap really from B1. It's an optional slide in terms of do you write the notes? And we've got an activity there if you want to have a go, you can, which is sequence the movement of an oxygen molecule from the alveoli to a muscle cell. Okay, it's quite a difficult task, so I want to kind of help you through that one. So if I had an oxygen molecule in the alveoli, it moves into the blood by diffusion. It's then transported through the blood to that muscle cell, moves into the muscle cell by diffusion, and in that muscle cell it is used for respiration. Okay. If you need any extra time for that slide, then pause now. Okay, we've got ourselves some pictures here, electron microscope pictures, and we can see here the muscle cell is full of mitochondria, but not the skin cell. Why do you think? Okay, so why do you think muscles contain lots of mitochondria, but the skin cell does not? And can you think of any other cells which might have a lot of mitochondria? Okay, so there's lots and lots of mitochondria inside the muscle cell because mitochondria is where respiration occurs, and that provides the energy for the muscles. Now, we do not create energy, we do not produce energy, we do not, produce? We don't make energy, we only release it, okay? It's a store of energy in the glucose, and respiration releases that energy, but we don't make it. We don't produce it, we don't create it, okay? So be careful on the wording. Can you think of other cells that might have a lot of mitochondria? Sperm cells, we learned about those in B1. They've got a lot of swimming to do, so they have lots of mitochondria, releasing that energy for movement. If you need extra time, pause now. Okay, I think this is our last question for the lesson. So, respiration occurs in all cells. The diagram represents the flow of blood to and from a muscle. Okay, so A carries the blood to the muscle. Then we've got capillaries, which is the fine blood vessels across the muscle. And then we've got blood vessel B, carries the blood from the muscle, okay? And it says respiration takes place in the cells of the muscle. Compare the concentrations of oxygen, carbon dioxide and glucose in blood vessels A and B. So in blood vessel A, tell me what's going on. What have we got a lot of? What have we got less of? In blood vessel B, what have we got a lot of? What have we got not so much of? Okay, and it will all link to that respiration equation. So if you're finding this tricky, have a look at the respiration equation while you're going. Have a go, pause now, and we'll come back for the answers. Okay, so in blood vessel A, this is going to be coming from the heart. It's going to have probably quite a high pressure before it goes over to the capillaries. So it's going to be an artery, and it's going to be full of oxygen and glucose ready for respiration. So that gets dropped off, the oxygen and the glucose, by diffusion in these cells here. And one of the products of respiration is the carbon dioxide. So blood vessel B, which is now a vein going back to the heart, lower pressure because the pressure dropped at the capillaries here, is going to be very high in carbon dioxide and low in oxygen and glucose. Okay, so high oxygen, glucose, low carbon dioxide, high. If you need any extra time, pause now. And that's the end of our video today. So that was our introduction to aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and we will continue looking at that next lesson. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks.